Hello, and welcome to another episode of Cooking 100-Year-Old Recipes. In this episode, I'm making Maryland chicken, and of course, we're going to start with chicken. This is a little tip. It's not in the book, it's my own tip. I do a dry brine on my chicken before I cook it, generally, when I have time. So allow about a teaspoon of kosher salt per pound, or not per pound, per 8 ounces of chicken. And for this cut, I'm using the leg quarters, which I will cut into pieces afterwards, but I bought them this way. So I'm going to salt them now and let them sit for about 3 hours. They're just at the end of thawing. And this is a great way to keep your chicken breasts tender if you struggle with dry or tough chicken breasts. Now the ingredients. What are we working with this time? This is a breaded chicken that is baked in the oven and served with a cream sauce. So I'm going to start with the breading station. And that is seasoned flour, and I'm not putting salt in the flour because the chicken will already be salty enough. And then breadcrumbs. And I'm using panko, but panko was not available in 1897. It was not made until World War II, which was, of course, quite a bit later. But you can get really creative with this step. If you like the kind of standard Progresso Italian breadcrumbs, they would be delicious in this application. But I have panko, and that's what I want to use. I'm seasoning it with a little bit of thyme and garlic powder. And I do have Italian seasoned panko, so I'm going to use just a little bit of that as well. But I don't want it to overwhelm the delicate cream sauce. So the breading as instructed is flour first, then the egg, then the panko. I put a little water in my egg so it's not too eggy. So whenever I flour chicken first, I let the flour sit on it just for a minute or two to absorb and settle before moving on to the next step. So that's what I'm doing right now as a first step. And then the egg wash. I did fast forward this. And into the breadcrumbs. So I do this with all of the pieces and put them on the prepared tray that you saw earlier. The instructions are a drip pan, and I have fashioned one out of a cooling rack with baking parchment on the actual pan that has a 1/2-inch lip on it. And we sanitize everything the chicken touches, of course. And now I'm going to make the cream sauce while the chicken is in the oven. And I have a little dish of melted butter there that I need to baste the chicken with after it's been cooking per the instructions. So the cream sauce is the thin white sauce recipe in the book, which I've made this several times in other videos. It's used quite often, but instead of milk, she says to use cream. So I'm starting off with the proportion for thin sauce, which is 2 tablespoons of butter and 1.5 tablespoons of flour. And I will cook that for at least a minute, and I have this sped up so it won't be a full minute as you're watching because no one wants to see butter and flour cooking for that long. But just so that you understand the process. And I have my flat roux whisk, and I always link my tools in the description if you're curious and would like to enjoy them in your own kitchen. And a little salt and pepper. Not too much, because too much salt will take away that natural sweetness of the cream sauce. It's been just over a minute, so I'm going to start adding the cream in small amounts so that I don't have lumps in my cream sauce. And then I'm going to baste the chicken with butter, and I'm just being very delicate, patting it on and letting it run over so that I don't brush off any of the seasoned panko crumbs. And the recipe says to bake for 30 minutes, but perhaps chickens are just larger now because mine needed close to 50 minutes. And there it is, all done and ready to serve. This is a nice, simple family style meal. Nothing's overly seasoned, but it's very hearty, stick to your ribs type of dish. I quite enjoyed it.